Boredom, the forgotten edge of the blade, the silent architect of madness and greatness alike. Most people, well, most of them, they run from boredom, like rats scurrying from a sinking ship, seeking distraction, feeding their minds a diet of flashing screens and endless noise. But boredom is a gift, a doorway into the unknown. It's the echoing emptiness that whispers, no screams at you, to confront the void within. And it is in that void, that aching silence, where greatness is born. You see, when the mind is stripped of its distractions, when you no longer have the comfortable crutches of stimulation to lean on, you're forced to create, to fill that empty space with something more than just mindless consumption, more than the passive intake of meaningless stimuli. Boredom demands you build something, or it devours you. It's a crucible, burning away the frivolous thoughts, the fleeting impulses, until all that remains is the essence of your potential. And there, in the stillness, in the deafening silence, you are reborn, not as who you were, but as what you can become. But oh, how the weak scramble to fill that silence. They fear it because it forces them to confront their insignificance. But those who embrace it, they transcend it. Because in boredom, you either become nothing or you become everything. The choice is yours. Squirm in the discomfort of your own mind or dive headfirst into the abyss of possibility. Boredom isn't just an inconvenience, it's a weapon. And the few who wield it correctly turn it into power. Think about it. Every invention, every revolution, every spark of genius was born in the quiet moments, in the lulls of action. When everything around you is still, the only thing left moving is your mind. That's where greatness lives, not in the noise, but in the silence. The ones who are afraid of boredom, the ones who need constant entertainment, constant validation, they will never understand this. They can't. Their minds are too weak to withstand the pressure of solitude. But those who sit in the silence, who let it consume them, they emerge with something new, a vision, a plan, a force the world has never seen before. Boredom is not the enemy. It's the forge, the place where your mind sharpens its blade, where your ideas are tempered by isolation, and your ambition is strengthened by the weight of stillness. And those who rise from the depths of boredom are the ones who change the world, because boredom pushes you into the unknown. And it's in the unknown where real progress is made, where the walls of ordinary life crumble and the doors to possibility swing open. But to reach greatness, you have to embrace the discomfort of boredom. You have to sit with it. Let it twist inside you. Let it drive you mad, until that madness becomes the fuel that lights your path. Because boredom isn't the absence of action. It's the invitation to create something worthy of your time. While most flee to distractions, the brave ones, the rare ones, sit in the silence and begin to build. It's in those moments of unbearable stillness that the monuments of tomorrow are crafted. The next great idea, the next powerful movement, the next revolution, all born from the void. Because when there's nothing to distract you, nothing to pull your attention away, the only thing left is the infinite possibility of your own mind. And that, my dear, is the most dangerous place to be. The edge of boredom, staring into the unknown, where you either fall or you fly. Greatness doesn't come from constant action. It comes from the space between actions, the pauses, the quiet moments where you have to confront the depths of your own potential, or lack thereof. That's why boredom is so terrifying to most. It shows them the truth of what they are, or what they could never be. But to those who understand its power, boredom is the gift that keeps on giving. It's the silence before the storm, the tension before the breakthrough. It is the birthplace of everything extraordinary. Let boredom consume you. Let it stretch out before you like an endless desert. And instead of fleeing, walk through it. Because only when you walk into the heart of that emptiness do you find the gold buried deep within. Those who conquer boredom, they conquer the world. While the rest are drowning in distractions, the chosen few are building empires in the quiet. Boredom is the deep breath before the plunge, the quiet before the storm, the stillness that always precedes the explosion of creation. It's the seed buried in the dark soil, waiting for the right moment to break through. Most people fear it, run from it, because in that silence, they are forced to face the yawning void inside themselves. But those who understand the dance of life, they know that boredom is where the mind takes root, where the greatest ideas are born, waiting for the moment to unleash their fury. Before every revolution, before every great work of art, every masterpiece, there is a pause, a lull, a moment when the mind flirts with madness, trapped between the past and the future, yearning for something more. And that's when the spark ignites. Because it's boredom that stirs the pot, that unsettles the soul, making it restless, making it hungry. You can't create from a place of contentment. Creation demands dissatisfaction, a deep, gnawing hunger to escape the mundanity of existence. And boredom, my friend, is the ultimate trigger. Boredom is a catalyst. It forces the mind to wander, to drift into the unknown, to explore the dark corners where the wildest thoughts reside. It strips away the distractions, the endless noise, until there's nothing left but raw potential. That's why those who understand the power of boredom don't run from it. They embrace it. They let it creep into their bones, let it rattle the cage of their minds until something new emerges. And what emerges is always dangerous because it's unfiltered, unrestrained, born from a place of desperation and need. Before any period of great creativity, there is an emptiness, a silence that threatens to consume. That's where the weak give up, where the fearful seek comfort. But the creators, they thrive in that space. They wait. They sit in the stillness, letting the boredom gnaw at them, pushing them to the brink of insanity, because they know that it's just the beginning. The deeper the boredom, the greater the explosion of creativity that follows. It's the pressure building, the storm gathering on the horizon, waiting for the moment to strike. The mind doesn't reach its full potential when it's constantly entertained, when it's spoon-fed distractions and noise. It reaches its peak when it's forced to sit in the silence, to fester in its own thoughts, to suffer through the boredom until something breaks. And when it breaks, when the mind shatters through the monotony, what emerges is something new, something wild, something that can't be tamed. Because creativity is born from discomfort, from frustration, from the need to escape the shackles of boredom. So the next time the emptiness starts to creep in, don't run. Don't flee into the arms of distraction like the rest of the world. Sit with it. Let it break you down. Let it burn away the superficial layers until you're left with nothing but your raw, unfiltered mind. because that's where the magic happens. In that space where nothing else exists. Where the mind is forced to confront its own depths, its own potential. Boredom is the slow unraveling of the chains that society so carefully wrapped around your mind. It's the state where the programming begins to crack, where the scripts you've been handed start to crumble under the weight of your own thoughts. When boredom sinks in, the distractions of the world are stripped away, and for the first time, you're left with yourself. No noise to drown out the questions, no entertainment to numb the restless ache. In that silence, you begin to feel it, the shedding of the falsehoods you've been told to believe. Society loves to keep you occupied. It needs you to be busy, needs your attention fragmented, so you never have time to think, to question, to rebel. But boredom is the antidote. It's the moment where those carefully constructed walls begin to fall, where the constant bombardment of external expectations loses its grip. When you're bored, truly bored, the thoughts start to turn inward. You begin to realize that so much of what you've been chasing is not your own. The dreams, the ambitions, the fears, they were placed there, like programs running in the background of your mind, keeping you trapped in someone else's design. In boredom, the veil lifts. You start to see how you've been shaped, molded into something that serves the system but not yourself. You feel the disconnect between who you are and what you've been told to be. And it's in this stillness, this unsettling quiet, that you begin to shed it all. Boredom forces you to confront the lie that endless distraction is the path to happiness, the lie that productivity is measured by how well you fit into society's predetermined roles. Boredom is a revolt. It's the place where conformity starts to rot, where the mask you've been wearing begins to slip. In those quiet moments, you feel the itch, the desire to tear it all off and find what's real, what's yours. But that's exactly what society fears. That's why it keeps you hooked on trivial pursuits. Why it floods your senses with shallow pleasures. Because boredom is dangerous. It's the gateway to liberation. When boredom takes hold, the programming starts to loosen its grip, and suddenly you begin to see the cracks in the system. You see how you've been controlled, how you've been made to chase shadows instead of substance. Waiting for society to bless your individuality is like asking the prison guard for the key to your cell. It's not going to happen. Society doesn't want you to be yourself. It wants you to be another cog in the machine, another face in the crowd, another mind broken into submission. The world isn't designed to celebrate uniqueness. It's built to crush it, to smooth out the rough edges, to silence the voices that dare to question the script. And most people, they willingly surrender, begging for the approval of a system that couldn't care less about who they really are. Waiting for permission to exist as yourself is the slowest form of death. It's handing over your power, begging for validation that will never come. Because society doesn't reward individuality. It punishes it. It mocks it, isolates it, destroys it. But here's the thing. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need a stamp of approval to be who you are. You never did. The system is built to make you feel small, to make you believe that conformity is the only path to survival, to success. But that's the lie it sells, to keep you in line, to keep you quiet, to keep you obedient. The strongest souls are the ones who never asked for permission. The ones who walked into the world, not with a question, but with a statement, who didn't wait for the gatekeepers to open the door, but tore it off its hinges and walked through on their own terms. The world doesn't want you to stand out because the moment you do, you become unpredictable. You become dangerous. And danger is what society fears most. A mind that can't be controlled, a spirit that refuses to bend. Stop looking for acceptance, for permission, for validation. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be you. Society isn't built to recognize your brilliance. It's built to erase it, to make you fit neatly into the mold that's been crafted for you since birth. You're taught from day one to seek approval, to wait for the nod of recognition before you move forward. But that nod is a trap. It keeps you shackled to the expectations of others, a prisoner of their limited vision. Being yourself is an act of rebellion. It's staring into the eyes of a world that wants to erase you and saying, "I'm not asking for your permission." It's living without apology, without compromise, knowing that the price of individuality is alienation, and embracing that price with open arms. Because the alternative is slavery. It's a lifetime spent playing a role, pretending to be something you're not, bowing to the rules of a game you never wanted to play. You'll never be free if you're waiting for the world to give you the green light. The system is built to keep you contained, to make you doubt your own power, your own identity. The moment you step outside the lines, the world will try to pull you back in, to remind you of the price of stepping out of line. But here's the thing. The price of conformity is far greater than the price of rebellion. Because when you conform, you lose yourself. And there's no price higher than that. The truth is, the world needs you to be yourself, but it will never tell you that. Because the system thrives on predictability, on control, on keeping the masses numb and compliant. To be yourself is to break that control, to disrupt the flow, to inject chaos into a world that fears it. So don't look to society for permission. It's not coming. You have to take it. You have to declare yourself free, not because the world allows it, but because you demand it. Be the storm that no one saw coming. Be the fire that refuses to burn out. And never, ever wait for society to understand you. It doesn't need to. Because in the end, the only permission that matters is the one you give to yourself. And once you do that, the world will either fall in line or it will crumble beneath your feet. Either way, you'll have won. The deeper you sink into boredom, the more you shed the layers of false identities and expectations. At first, it's agony, isn't it? The unease, the creeping sense of discomfort, like you're peeling away skin that's been grafted onto you by the world. That initial hesitation, that's the sound of the cage rattling. It's the resistance of the old you, the version of yourself that has been carefully constructed, not by your own hand, but by society, by the weight of expectation, by the voices that told you who to be and how to act. But if you persist, if you dare to stay in that discomfort, something begins to shift. You break through the surface of the lie, and what emerges is the shadow of something real. You start to hear a voice you hadn't recognized before, quiet at first, like a whisper carried on the wind. That voice, it's your truest self, buried deep beneath the noise, beneath the distractions that have kept you numb, obedient. The more you strip away, the louder that voice becomes, and in that voice is power, raw, untamed, and unapologetic fear is the great illusion, the ultimate joke, the chains we shackle ourselves with. But what is there to fear, really? Look at what you are, a ghost wrapped in flesh, a fleeting spark of consciousness, driving a skeleton made of stardust. Your bones are older than the earth itself, forged in the heart of dying stars. Yet here you are, riding this rock, spinning through an endless void, hurtling through space at incomprehensible speeds. And you're afraid? Afraid of what? Afraid of being alone, confronting your true self? Get a grip. Think about it. You're nothing but a temporary flicker, a whisper of existence in a universe that doesn't even notice you're here. Fear is for the small-minded, for those who can't grasp the absurdity of their own existence. It's for the ones clinging to life, pretending it all matters, as if their fragile little dramas hold any weight in the grand scale of infinity. But you're more than that. You're a ghost, untouchable, ethereal, here for a moment and gone the next. You are not your body, not your fears, not your limitations. You are something ancient, something that transcends this fleeting experience. When you realize how little you matter in the cosmic sense, that's when you become free. Free from the chains of fear, free from the limitations that bind the rest of the world. You're not some delicate thing, cowering from shadows, worried about the judgments of those who don't even understand their own existence. You're a force of nature, a cosmic accident with the power to create, to destroy, to shape your reality as you see fit. You're the universe looking back at itself. And once you understand that, fear becomes irrelevant. Why would a ghost fear anything in this world? You're untouchable. Your form may be fragile, but your essence is eternal. You've survived supernovas, cosmic collisions, the birth and death of galaxies. You've been here longer than time itself, and you'll be here long after this earth is nothing but dust. So why fear? Fear is the tool of those who don't understand their power, who think life is something to be protected, something to be hoarded. But life is nothing more than a moment, a fleeting ride on a rock that's already spiraling toward oblivion. Once you grasp that, once you accept that you're riding this cosmic wave with no control, fear evaporates. It's nothing more than a distraction, a smokescreen to keep you tethered to the illusion of safety. But safety is a lie. Nothing is safe. Nothing is permanent. And that's where your power lies, in embracing the chaos, in stepping boldly into the unknown, because there's nothing to lose. Fear is for the weak, for those who think they can cling to life and avoid death. But death is coming, and it's coming for everyone. The difference is, you won't flinch when it arrives. You've already seen it, felt it in your bones, the inevitable end to this meat-coated skeleton. But you are not this body. You are the ghost driving it, a force that cannot be tamed, cannot be destroyed. Fear is for those who think they're alive. But you're already beyond life and death. You're playing the game knowing the rules don't apply to you. And that's where your strength comes from. Not from the illusion of control, but from the acceptance that there is none. So why fear? Fear is nothing but the whisper of a dying mind, clinging to its fragile existence. But you're more than that. You're a force of nature, a ghost riding a rock through the void. There's nothing to fear, nothing to lose, nothing to cling to. You're already free, free from the constraints of time, of form, of identity. And once you embrace that, Once you let go of the last vestiges of fear, you become unstoppable. Because when there's nothing to lose, nothing to fear, there's nothing left but freedom. And in that freedom, you find your true power. Boredom. It's the breeding ground of the most dangerous force imaginable. Potential. It's the void staring back at you, daring you to fill it with something more. And here's the secret. There's no more worthwhile endeavor than to dive headfirst into that void, to see just how far you can push yourself, to test the limits of what you're capable of, to see what lurks beneath the surface of your mundane existence. Most people fear boredom. They run from it, thinking it's the enemy. But boredom is the beginning. It's the catalyst. It's the fire in the engine of creation. Without boredom, there's no hunger to change, no drive to break the chains of mediocrity. When you're bored, that's when the cracks in your existence start to show. It's the discomfort that shakes you from your stupor, that makes you question whether you've been sleepwalking through your life. Boredom strips away the distractions, forcing you to confront the nothingness that lies ahead. And in that nothingness, in that yawning abyss, the real challenge begins. What are you going to do with it? There's no higher purpose than to find out what you're truly capable of. To push your mind and body to the edge and see what happens when you go beyond the threshold. To see what you're made of when you strip away all the distractions and face the void head on. Most people spend their lives avoiding this moment, clinging to the safety of routine, of comfort, of predictability. But those who step into the boredom, those who let it take hold, they find something greater on the other side. It's in boredom where the seeds of greatness are planted, where you stop being content with who you've been and start craving transformation. When you sit in the silence long enough, the noise of the world fades, and what's left is your potential, raw and untouched. And the question gnaws at you. What could you become? The people who avoid boredom never ask themselves that. They distract, they pacify, they sleepwalk through life without ever knowing what they're capable of. But here's where it gets interesting. The boredom, the nothingness, it's necessary. It's the dark void that demands to be filled. And it's the only thing that can shake you awake from the numbing monotony of modern life. It's where you stop simply existing and start creating. Creating something out of the nothing that stretches out before you. Boredom forces your hand. It leaves you with two choices: stagnation or transformation. And transformation is the only path worth walking. The pursuit of what you're capable of. That's where life begins. It's the only question that matters. How far can you push? How much can you grow? What happens when you stop being afraid of boredom, of the silence, of the unknown? What happens when you embrace the emptiness and fill it with the force of your will? That's the question that haunts those who avoid it. That's the question that separates the few who truly live from the many who simply survive. There's nothing more dangerous than a person who has discovered what they're capable of. Boredom is the gateway to that discovery, and once you step through it, there's no turning back. You're no longer tethered to the superficial pursuits of comfort or pleasure. You're driven by something deeper, something primal. You become obsessed with pushing the limits, with seeing what lies on the other side of boredom. You stop fearing it and start using it as fuel, as the fire that drives you forward. Society thrives on confusion. It's built on uncertainty, on the endless, looping dance of people who have no idea what they want. That's the fuel, the engine. It's what keeps the whole machine moving. People, stumbling through life, unsure, indecisive, chasing shadows and reflections instead of reality. That's what society needs. It feeds on that blindness. Because a person who doesn't know what they want, they're easy to control. They're malleable. Point them in any direction. Give them any purpose, and watch them chase it, like a dog chasing its tail. But here's the sick joke. It's not accidental. This system isn't broken. It's by design. Society wants you distracted, wants your vision blurred, your desires scattered. It wants you chasing things that don't matter, so you'll never stop and ask the real question. What do I want? Not what you've been told to want. Not the goals that have been handed down to you, wrapped in shiny packaging and false promises. But you. What you really want? But that question, it terrifies the system. Because the moment you start asking it, everything begins to unravel. A person who knows what they want, that's dangerous. That's someone who can't be led like a sheep, who won't fall in line with the rest of the blindfolded masses. That's someone who becomes a problem. Because when you know what you want, you're no longer chasing after society's distractions. You're not buying into the illusions, the prepackaged dreams sold to keep you docile. You become focused, sharp, lethal. And society doesn't want that. It needs you lost, wandering through a maze of your own indecision, so it can control your every move. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding the question. They drown it out with noise, with empty pursuits, with shallow victories that mean nothing. They never stop to consider that they're running in circles because society has convinced them that's the game. Keep running, keep moving, never stop to question why. And that's the brilliance of it. The whole thing runs on autopilot. People don't even realize they're trapped in a cage because the cage is invisible. It's built from their own uncertainty, their own inability to define what really matters to them. But once you know, once you see the game for what it is, it all starts to collapse. The rules no longer apply. You stop playing, you stop running. And suddenly you're outside the system looking in. You realize that society wasn't designed for people like you. Not knowing is the most honest place you can be. There's something almost beautiful about admitting that you don't have all the answers, that you're standing in the dark, staring into the void, with no clue what lies ahead. It's raw. It's real. It's the one thing society doesn't want you to embrace: uncertainty. People are so quick to form opinions, even on things they don't understand. They cling to ideas and identities, desperate to feel like they know something, anything, just so they can fit into the mold. But here's the truth no one talks about. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to pretend you know what you're doing, where you're going, or even who you are. In fact, there's more power in admitting that you don't know. It's the first step toward clarity. And it's okay. No, it's necessary to stand in that uncertainty. The problem isn't that you don't have all the answers. It's that you're too afraid to admit it. Too afraid to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. So instead, you fill the void with opinions that aren't even yours. Ideas you barely understand. Labels that were handed to you by people who don't have a clue. about who you are or what you want. You're allowed to not know what you want. It's not a weakness, it's the starting point. What's unacceptable is staying there, staying lost, staying stagnant, floating through life, waiting for someone to hand you the key to your purpose. That's the real crime. Because life isn't going to throw you a rope. It isn't going to point you in the right direction. You have to choose to dig, to explore, to find out what you want, even if it takes you to the darkest corners of your soul. The problem with people today, they don't make the effort. They drift, waiting for someone to give them direction, waiting for purpose to hit them like a bullet between the eyes. But here's the ugly reality. No one is coming to save you from your uncertainty. No one is going to hand you the blueprint to your life. You have to build it yourself. You have to be willing to wander through the confusion, through the darkness, and ask the hard questions. Being unsure of yourself isn't the problem. The problem is settling for that uncertainty, letting it become your identity, your excuse for never moving forward. Not knowing who you are is fine. What's not fine is sitting in that space forever, pretending like you're helpless to change it. People wrap themselves in the comfort of their own confusion because it's easier than taking action, easier than facing the reality that finding out what you want requires work. It requires brutal introspection, and it demands that you rip apart the false identities you've been clinging to. You're allowed to be lost, but you're not allowed to stay lost. Life is a maze, and most people are content to sit at the entrance. You have to be willing to admit that you don't know, and that's the most dangerous place to be. Because from there, the only direction left is forward. Normalize not having an opinion on everything. You don't have to comment on every situation. You don't have to have all the answers, even when it comes to yourself. But don't mistake that for passivity. Don't confuse not knowing with not caring. You can stand in the unknown, but you should always be walking toward the truth, whatever that means for you.